When you see the sparkle in their eyes, it tells a whole story. Before you were working with women who were hopeless and desperate, but now you hear it in the tone of her voice when she speaks and how excited she is about things.
This is Phoenix Stories, where we look at sustainable development in post-conflict zones. I'm Professor Martin Spinelli at the University of Sussex, and on this episode of Phoenix Stories, I'm speaking with Nellie Soudah, who is Program Director at People in Need. Hello, Nellie.
Hello, Martin. Hope you're well.
I am. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So, in a few words or a few short sentences, can you tell me what the main goal or mission of the work you're doing with people in need at the moment?
I would say, in short, that PIN strives for a world in which people can fulfill their potential, live in an inclusive society, and in a sustainable manner. We aim to always work with local actors to alleviate the poverty and exclusion and strengthen the resilience of most of the vulnerable people.
So, what are some of the main obstacles that you see to achieving that goal at the moment?
As the main obstacles, I would say the continuous changes in the world, whether it was by natural disasters or by war or man made. It alleviates more suffering where humanitarian people like us and organizations are more needed. But however, with the increasing problems around the world, funding has become also less, where we sadly have to prioritize where we intervene and where we respond. So the unsustainability within the worldwide had made our response interventions, our work much harder to achieve country sustainability within communities in need.
Nellie, can you tell us a story of a particular person or family that you've helped in recent years?
So Omar is a person that before 2011, 2012 was living in Aleppo, but due to the war, she became a widow. She lost her husband and she had three kids in which she had to be displaced to Idlib areas and where she was residing in camps. Omar had never had the experience of working. She did not have any skill. She did not finish her high school. And although she was working as a daily worker on whatever is needed, she was never able to support her three kids because she also had the burden of staying at home and taking care of those three kids as she did not have a family. So, through our programs that very much are tailored towards women, and those are even vulnerable within the vulnerable communities, which are widows, we worked on building skills of those women to what they can actually do within their household, where they can generate money and at the same time be around their kids. We also give them training on how to approach the market around them and sell their products. So Umar now is producing shampoo and soap and selling around in the area where she lives and generating income accordingly with the ability to stay with her kids at home.
That's a fantastic story.
When you see the sparkle in their eyes, it tells a whole story. You don't have to hear them say anything. Before you were working with women who were hopeless, I would say, and desperate. But now you hear it in the tone of her voice when she speaks and how excited she is about things. So that itself explains that she is in a better place on how we first met her, right? She is generating money. She is feeling some sort of security where she can buy food for her children, right? We still work with those women. We still mentor and monitor them and ensure that they even become better at what they're doing. So this is still not the end.
Can you tell me some of the other large projects that you're working on right now with people in need?
Of the big ones that I would see an emphasis on as we mark today the 2 years of the earthquake that had hit Syria. and Turkey in 2023. One of the big projects that finished recently, the opening would be in May. We had built a whole compound of houses for women who had lost their husbands and who have no income and no housing, where they can move into dignified housing with their children starting of May. This is a response for the earthquake on a bigger scale. On another scale, we can speak about communities and camps, and we know how important water is, right? And people were depending very much on water trucking, and it wasn't always a sustainable solution. We worked very much on providing clean water through networks, through solar power plants that would basically produce that water to reach every household, and of course, eliminate problems of health, hygiene, and other matters that on a community level where you see big changes.
I know also that you've set up some self-help groups for women involving businesses and finances. Can you tell us a little bit about those self-help groups?
This is also one of our main focuses. As I said before, Martin, we very much focus on women. With our work, we have certain projects where we only work with women. One of them is the self help groups. And from the self help groups, we also find our second line beneficiaries where we start training them for grants. So we start always with the small help groups where women from the community itself, they could be neighbors. We support them come together. We facilitate those gatherings with simple refreshments, accountancy trainings, and they start saving themselves. So every month, the women come together, they put their savings in a pot, and they discuss together on what they would want to do with the money. Or one of them or two of them would want to start a business by themselves. They can take the money from that pot, but they return it to the pot on later stages, where another woman from that group would take the money and start their own business. But this is a very small home-based initiatives, right? But we need to start somewhere to explain to those women who have never been in markets or worked or been at least to schools, that there is some sort of way where you can generate income and be independent. And from there, we would see women that are also very much skilled in certain things that would train other women and build those skills. So we're kind of creating a bond within the community of support, right, within those women. And some of them even develop further with our support and mentoring, and they pursue the grants that we are giving now, where they write a proper proposal, because for the grant, you need to write a proposal in which we already give them a training on how to do it. So they write proper proposals, they do proper market research, and then we support them with those grants that I have given you an example of with Omar before, with the soap and the shampoo.
That sounds great. So these self-help groups for women, they collect money from the group and then they collectively make decisions about which small businesses to invest in. Is that right?
Correct. Sometimes they take the money and they invest it together in a joint project, and sometimes one of them would want to start her own. Of course, if there is one of them that had a skill that wanted to train the rest on that skill, we provide those equipment, for example, for those skills training sessions. For example, if it's about hairdressing, we would provide everything that comes with it on a limited scale, but yeah, just to support them start.
Do you do any work in the educational front, either formally or informally, with children?
For PIN, education is extremely important. We do understand its emphasis on building generations and sustainability, right? We work both on non-formal education and formal education. And we also link between non-formal and formal education, where we work on those kids with accelerated training, additional sessions for them to catch up on formal training, where we ensure that they, at the end, join the formal schooling. We had at a certain point 53 schools around northern side of Syria, between non-formal schools, in which we call temporary learning centers, and formal schools.
Wow. And these children, when they're not in these schools that you support, what are they doing? What are their lives like?
They are mainly orphans that have the responsibility to support their families. Some of them are left with one parent. Some of them are without any parents, maybe living with a relative or a grandparent who is already old in age and cannot support. So basically, they are orphans that have to work and provide food for their other siblings. We have projects where we cover this. For example, we integrate within our approach to ensure that the children are attending school. We look at their parents, at their situation, and within our other programs, we support this family with whatever support we can give, whether it was cash, whether it was food, whatever it was, for us to ensure that the kid would be able to come to school instead of work. So within our integrated approach, we try to achieve a bigger impact within each and every sector we intervene in.
Really, really wonderful work. So, what work does people need to do around nutrition, particularly for younger people, younger families?
For PIN, we work with lactating and pregnant women, and of course, with children up to 5 years of age. So basically, we have continuous awareness sessions in communities where we speak about the importance of proper nutrient meals. And within those sessions, we always provide fresh fruits and we also provide supplements.
Nellie, what do you think sustainability means? That idea of sustainability that we're very much interested in here on Phoenix Stories. What does that mean for the people you work with, the beneficiaries that you work with?
I think sustainability, whether to beneficiaries, to people under war, or normal people that live in developed countries, is the rule of law and the security. This is one of the main things where every human being, whether under war or not, strives for. This is, I think, the main base for sustainability, I would say, in general. Moving forward from living under rule of law and security, I would say some sort of sustainability where you are able to learn and generate income and become independent and not dependent on others, because this is not anything that can secure a long term solution. So, this is from my end are two very most important things. And I think this is not only for beneficiaries or people that are under war, but this is for any human anywhere.
Do any of the people you work with struggle with the transition from aid to sustainable development? Are situations so difficult and challenging that they can't even think about sustainability?
Of course, we have to understand also that the funding that comes to several regions change within the strategies that are set by the donor. And it's not always very much relative to what is on ground. Definitely, the people would want to move towards being independent and they do not want to keep on having food baskets, or they would rather have cash. They would rather have trainings where you build their skills and they are able to go and work and generate their own income. But as you see the fluctuations, and as I first mentioned, within what's happening worldwide, it is very much affecting the funding that is coming to Syria. From one moment, we are programming and we are intervening and we have big responses on ground to sudden cuts like what we are facing currently with the USAID. So basically, it has become really hard to foresee what the future would bring for us to be able to respond properly for those people as it continuously changes. I would say a sustainable political solution should be the base before we intervene or respond in any country. The buy-in of donors, whether politically or through funding, very much brings that sustainability to basically to the table where we can actually plan ahead for a longer period than what we are now given funds for. 2 years and 3 years and 4 years of programming rather than 1 year, right? And this is where you see sustainability and this is how you make change on ground.
Now that the political situation seems to be changing on the ground in Syria, and that any local obstacles might be falling away, how has your thinking about sustainability changed as you look towards the future of Syria?
I would say the changes of the regimes now or the governments within Syria comes with a period where the new government is still basically building itself forward, right? During that period, I think there is a lot of uncertainties within the populations, within the implementers ourselves, within the donors. And we are still trying to figure out how would the response shape up to be. What would be the needs? We are still looking into the areas that previously were under Assad because we were only operating in certain areas of Syria, but not fully, right? So we are trying now to understand the context, to understand the population. There are returnees, displaced host communities within a certain area. So it's huge. Needs assessments are ongoing for us to be able to actually prioritize, work together with the government that is in place. Of course, the NGO systems that will be in place for coordination, as well as the UN body. I would say this is still a little bit early to discuss. We are still finding our way around. Our visits are still ongoing. We have not stopped in responding to our beneficiaries. We are there. We, as an organization, directly implement. We have over 6 offices in Syria, and we are with our beneficiaries, right? But for the future and the way forward and expansion within our basically response to areas that those that were sitting in camps want to move back to their original homes that are completely destroyed. So it requires a huge, huge work to move forward within Syria, to be honest, and on all levels.
As we've just been saying, things are changing and changing quite rapidly in Syria. What advice might you have for other NGOs or new people who are about to get involved in aid and development in Syria? What might they keep in mind based on your experience? What is going to work best?
As we do in People in Need, work with the communities, develop projects that stem from the communities. You want to ensure ownership. You want to ensure that you are successful. You want to ensure that you make change. You will never be able to make any change if you do not work hand in hand with the communities. You have to see what their real wants are, what their needs are, and shape the response according to it. Do not impose what you think or what you have implemented in other contexts, in other countries that would work in Syria or any other country. Give the space to the communities to work with you in shaping and designing projects. Give them the space to actually support you in implementing this project. And this is in projects, and this is how you can ensure ownership. And this is extremely important, as when we leave, they would be the ones who should take over their own country and build it up.
How should new NGOs or new support and development agencies be thinking about value for money in the projects they invest in?
Value for money is ensured through coordination and through a verified need. So coordination, ensuring that we are not duplicating efforts, and that's why we are always coordinating with other implementers in field through the cluster systems that are in place, or through NGO forums in which we sit and coordinate and ensure who is doing what where. So this is the first thing, and verified need, ensuring that also the need is there, that falls within the strategy, within the organization, and of that of the donor, and that we ensure through our monitoring that this aid is delivered to those people who actually need it.
And I also think based on what you've said, you've sort of returned to this idea of local involvement and local ownership. That seems to be a very key part of the philosophy of sustainability. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Well, we give a voice to the community. It doesn't get any better than this. We sit with them, we build their skills in ways where we encourage them to have a voice. And we do this, it starts with our community committees. We support them to start dialogues within the communities, to poke each other's brains, to speak of their needs, to speak on how they would want to solve their problems. And this is where we intervene, and we take ideas from there, support them to start projects from there. So this is one of our approaches within the community-based approach, right? Other than that would be we involving them in needs assessments and project design, project implementation, and closure. But definitely the creation of committees where we are basically building their capacities to basically have a voice. We also build their skills on how to speak the language of a donor and other stakeholders in field and advocate themselves for what they want. Because many of the times when we are meeting with them, they will complain about, okay, these projects, we see them as not a priority to what we want now. But saying it as such and complaining as such might not always get to the donor's interest. So we're teaching them the language that they need to use, how they should be speaking to advocate properly to what they need through our dialogue sessions and mentoring of their meetings within their communities.
That sounds great, Nellie. If I were writing big checks, I would send one to you. Unfortunately, I'm not writing big checks, but it sounds really, really good what you're doing. Nellie, what approach do you think other governments like the UK government or the German government or the American or Canadian government should be considering now to make this very, very unique and long waited for transition happen in the best possible way to help Syria develop and become truly, authentically sustainable?
If this was the choice of the people, where Syria is now, I think we need to give them a chance and hope for them to build their country again. From our end, as humanitarian and development actors, we lobby as much as we can to donors to give us the funds to respond to the needs on ground. But I think the support that should come to Syria is much bigger than what we can offer on ground, where it really needs to come with political solutions, sanctions, recognition, ensuring rule of law, security for the people. Sustainability will not be achieved if none of these are happening. We very much depend on each other to achieve an impact, whether by donors or by us as humanitarians and development actors implementing in field. One without the other cannot work. And each in their own, let's say, specialty has to basically commit from their end to reaching a solution for it to work.
Nellie, that's fantastic stuff. Is there any last main message that you would like to get across?
I wish that one day and in the near future that I will not have a job in the humanitarian sector or in the emergency. However, this isn't anything that I see with the near future. I think worldwide wars and conflicts are just basically increasing. What I would wish for next is for me to be able to continue working in this sector that for me I have joined out of stemming from passion to work with people. It is extremely rewarding to see changes directly when you are working with people because it happens right away. Unlike when you work in the private sector and you wait for a return on investment, it takes a long time. But working with people and seeing that change is extremely rewarding.
I really get a sense from you that this is not just a job for you, but it is a vocation, a mission, a vision for you. And that comes across really, really strongly. So thank you very much for making the time to talk to me today. And I wish you all the best in all of your projects.
Thank you, Martin.
This is Phoenix Stories. On this episode, I've been speaking with Nellie Soudah, who is Program Director at People in Need. We had financial support from the Business School at the University of Sussex and technical support from the School of Media, Arts and Humanities. Our podcasting consultants were Resilience Limited. The producer is Ruth Holleroyd and the executive producer is Mirella Barbu. I'm Martin Spinelli. Thanks very much for listening, and if you work in the humanitarian or AIDS sectors, please know that your work is appreciated.